Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into a tale as delicate as a dew-kissed thread, where the air hums with the soft clack of a loom and the faint rustle of silk. Picture yourself in a dusty Greek village, the kind where olive trees cast long shadows and the sun paints everything gold. You're standing in a crowded marketplace, and all anyone can talk about is Arachne, a weaver whose fingers dance like they're charmed. Her tapestries, they're so vivid, you'd swear the woven rivers ripple. But here's the reality check, boasting you're better than a goddess like Athena. Yeah, you probably won't survive that kind of flex. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and what time it is where you are. I love picturing you all out there, tucked in with your headphones. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're weaving through the village now, dodging carts piled with figs and dodging the occasional runaway goat, classic ancient Greece chaos. The air smells of warm bread and wool, and you catch snippets of gossip about Arachne. She's not royalty, not even rich, just a young woman with a knack for turning thread into art. Her loom sits in a cramped hut, but the tapestries spilling out could make you forget your own name. One shows a forest so real, you half expect a deer to leap out. Another captures a storm, threads swirling like thunderclouds. The mainstream fact here weaving was huge in ancient Greece. Women like Arachne weren't just crafters, they were economic powerhouses, keeping households afloat with their textiles. But the quirky tidbit, some say Arachne learned her craft from spiders themselves, watching them spin in the moonlight. True or not, it's the kind of story that sticks. So you pause by a stall, where a merchant's selling dyes saffron yellow, murex purple, the good stuff. He's grumbling about Arachne, how her work's so perfect, it's unnatural. You can't help but smirk. Dude's just jealous. His own rugs look like a toddler's art project. Historians still argue whether Arachne was a real person or a myth spun to warn against pride. But the buzz around her feels alive, like the village itself is holding its breath. You wander closer to her hut, where a crowd's gathered, peering through the doorway. Arachne's at her loom, hair tied back, hands moving so fast they blur. She's not showing off, not really, but there's a spark in her eye, like she knows she's untouchable. The sun's dipping low now, painting the sky in pinks and oranges, rosy, and you linger, caught up in the rhythm of her work. It's hypnotic, the way the shuttle flies, the threads locking into place. You're not the only one watching. Kids are sneaking glances, and even the village grump, some old guy with a face like a prune, can't look away. There's a joke floating around that Arachne's tapestries are so good, they could make Zeus himself trip over his sandals. You chuckle. But there's a weight in the air, a sense that something bigger's brewing. Arachne's not just weaving cloth. She's weaving a challenge. One that's about to catch the attention of a certain goddess with a very short temper. You step back, letting the crowd close in, and find a spot under an olive tree to catch your breath. The village hums around you, dogs barking, a lyre strumming somewhere distant. You're starting to get why Arachne's such a big deal. But you also feel that prickle of dread, bragging you're better than Athena, goddess of wisdom and crafts. That's not just bold, it's poking a divine bear with a stick, for now. Though, Arachne's just a woman at her loom, unaware of the storm she's stitching into existence. You lean back, the tree's bark rough against your shoulders, and let the day's warmth pull you deeper into her story. You're still in that sun-soaked village. The buzz of Arachne's name hanging in the air like dust motes caught in a beam of light. You wander past a baker kneading dough, his hands dusted with flour, and overhear him muttering to a customer about Arachne's latest tapestry. It's not just gossip now. It's a fever. You follow the chatter, your sandals scuffing the dirt path, until you reach the village square, where a small crowd's gathered around an old storyteller perched on a stone bench. His voice is gravelly, his gestures wild, and he's spinning tales of Arachne's work that make your skin prickle. Her tapestries, he claims, don't just rival the gods, they shame them. You lean in, the scent of time and sweat mingling, and feel the weight of those words settle over you. The storytellers got everyone hooked. Describing a tapestry Arachne wove last month, a scene of the ocean so lifelike. People swore they felt sea spray. You picture it, blues and greens threaded so tightly, the waves seem to crash. The mainstream fact here is that ancient Greek textiles were often narrative, like visual poems, used to tell stories of heroes or gods. Arachne's work fits that mold, but it's next level, turning thread into something almost alive. Then comes the quirky tidbit. Some villagers whisper Arachne's dyed her threads with potions, not just plants, to get colors no one else can match. Is it magic cheating or just genius? You smirk, imagining her stirring a cauldron like some ancient textile witch. You shift your weight. The stone beneath you, warm from the sun, and catch a kid nearby mimicking the storyteller's dramatic arm waves. It's cute, but you're distracted by a woman in the crowd who scoffs, saying Arachne's getting too cocky. She's saying her work's better than Athena's. The woman hisses, and you feel a chill despite the heat. Historians still argue whether Arachne's boldness was real defiance or a myth meant to teach humility. But right now, it's the spark lighting up this village. You glance around, noticing how the crowds split some nod in awe. Others shake their heads, like they're already bracing for divine payback. The storyteller's not done. He leans forward, eyes glinting, and describes another of Arachne's pieces, a tapestry of mortal lovers outwitting the gods. The crowd gasps, partly at the skill, partly at the nerve. You can't help but grin. Arachne's basically throwing shade at Olympus with every thread. There's a joke going around that her looms so fast. It could outrun Hermes on a good day. You chuckle, but the mood's shifting. The air feels heavier, like a storm's rolling in. Even though the sky's clear, you remember that olive tree from earlier, where you watched Arachne's hut feels like a lifetime ago. But it's the same day, the same relentless sun. You slip away from the square, needing a breather, and find a shady spot by a well. The water's cool, and you splash some on your face, letting it drip down your neck. The village hums on goats bleating, a weaver's shuttle clicking somewhere nearby, but Arachne's name keeps surfacing, like a melody you can't shake. You're starting to see why her fame's spreading beyond this dusty corner of Greece. Her tapestries aren't just art, they're a statement, a dare. You lean against the well's stone edge, the roughness grounding you, and wonder how long she can keep this up before someone or something pushes back. The sun's lower now, casting long shadows that stretch like fingers across the ground. You spot a few villagers heading toward Arachne's hut, probably hoping to catch a glimpse of her next masterpiece. You're tempted to follow, but there's a knot in your stomach, a sense that this story's about to take a turn. Arachne's not just weaving threads, she's weaving her own fate, and you're caught in the pattern, waiting to see what happens next. For now, you stay put, the well's cool stone against your palms, and let the village's rhythm pull you deeper into her world. You're back in the village, the evening air cooling as the sun dips below the hills, leaving a soft purple glow. You're strolling toward Arachne's hut, drawn by the chatter from earlier. But now, there's a new energy in the air, something sharp, like the moment before a lightning strike. You pass a group of women spinning wool, their spindles twirling, and catch them whispering about Athena herself. The goddess of wisdom and crafts, they say, has heard Arachne's boasts. You pause, one sandal half lifted, and feel a prickle down your spine. Athena's not just any deity. She's got a track record of turning cocky mortals into cautionary tales. You remember that storyteller from the square, his wild gestures, and wonder if Arachne's heard the same rumors. You keep moving, the path narrowing as you near Arachne's place. The mainstream fact here is that Athena was revered in ancient Greece, not just for war, but for crafts like weaving, often depicted with a loom or spindle in art. Her divine skill was the gold standard. So Arachne's claims are like saying you can outcook Gordon Ramsay in his own kitchen. The quirky tidbit: some old myths hint Athena once wove a tapestry so perfect it made the stars jealous literally. Villagers swear Arachne's work has given that legend a run for its money. You smirk, imagining Athena up on Olympus, side-eyeing her starry masterpiece and fuming. You reach the hut, where a small crowd lingers, their shadows long and jittery in the torchlight. Arachne's inside, her loom's rhythmic clack drifting out like a heartbeat. You peek through the doorway, catching the glint of her shuttle as it darts through the warp threads. She's focused, but there's a defiance in her posture, like she knows someone's watching, maybe not you, maybe something bigger. Historians still argue whether Athena's interest in Arachne was personal or just divine protocol. But right now, you can almost feel the goddess's gaze, heavy as a storm cloud, settling over this tiny hut. You lean against the wall, the clay cool against your shoulder, and notice a kid nearby tossing pebbles, muttering that Arachne's gonna get smited. You stifle a laugh. Smiting's such a godly vibe. Like Athena's got a cosmic zap button. But the kid's not wrong. The air's thick with tension. You picture Athena on Olympus, her owl perched nearby, probably rolling its eyes at the mortal drama. There's a joke floating around the village that Arachne's tapestries are so good. Even the fates are jealous they didn't weave them first. You grin, but your stomach twists. This isn't just about weaving anymore. It's a showdown brewing. You step back, letting the crowd's murmurs wash over you. Someone saying Arachne's latest work shows gods tripping over their own ego's bold move. Girl, you glance up at the sky, half expecting to see Athena's chariot screaming down. But it's just stars, twinkling like they're in on the secret. You wander a few steps away, finding a patch of grass to sit on. The earth still warm from the day. The village is quieter now. The clack of Arachne's loom, the loudest sound, each beat like a dare. You think back to that well you leaned against earlier, the cool water on your face, and wish you could splash away this growing unease. The torchlight flickers, casting shadows that dance like restless spirits. You're caught up in the rhythm of Arachne's work, but there's no missing the shift in the village's mood. People aren't just amazed anymore, they're nervous, glancing at the sky like they expect a divine PowerPoint presentation on why mortals shouldn't test gods. You pull your knees up, resting your chin on them, and let the night's quiet pull you deeper. Arachne's still weaving, oblivious or uncaring, but you can't shake the feeling that Athena's out there, watching, her fingers twitching for her own loom or something worse. You're still near Arachne's hut, the night air thick with the scent of olive wood smoke and the faint tang of dye vats. The crowd's thinned out, leaving just a few stragglers whispering in the flickering torchlight. But you can't pull yourself away. The clack of Arachne's loom has stopped, replaced by a tense quiet, like the village is holding its breath. You're leaning against a gnarled tree, its bark rough under your palms. When you hear it, a sharp voice from inside the hut. It's Arachne, and she's not talking to anyone human. If Athena's so great, let her prove it. She snaps, loud enough to make you flinch. You freeze, heart thumping, because that's not just bold, it's a straight-up challenge to a goddess. You glance at the sky, half expecting a thunderbolt, But it's just stars, cold and unbothered. You edge closer, pebbles crunching under your sandals, and catch a glimpse of Arachne through the doorway. She's standing, hands on hips, staring at nothing like she's daring the air itself. The mainstream fact here is that ancient Greeks often used competitions, like weaving or athletics, to settle disputes or prove worth. So Arachne's challenge fits the culture, even if it's reckless. The quirky tidbit: some myths say Athena's loom was a gift from Hephaestus, forged with divine precision, while Arachne's just a rickety wooden thing held together by grit. You smirk, picturing Arachne's loom creaking under the weight of her ambition, like it's begging for a break. You settle on a low stone wall nearby, the coolness seeping through your tunic, and try to process what you just heard. Arachne's not whispering this stuff in the marketplace. She's shouting it, like she wants Olympus to RSVP. Historians still argue whether Arachne's challenge was a real event or a metaphor for human pride. But right now, it feels like the air's crackling with her defiance. You spot a villager nearby, an old woman with a shawl, muttering prayers to Athena under her breath. She looks at you, eyes wide, and you give a sheepish shrug, like, yeah, this is wild. The village is darker now, the torches burning low, and you can't help but feel like you're in one of those moments where history pivots. You think back to that storyteller in the square, his tales of Arachne's tapestries shaming the gods, and realize this is the spark he was hinting at. There's a joke going around that Arachne's so confident, she'd challenge Zeus to a lightning-throwing contest and bring her own thunder. You chuckle softly, but it's forced the tensions too thick. You're starting to wonder if Arachne's got a death wish, or if she's just that sure of her skill. You shift, stretching your legs, and notice a faint breeze stirring the dust. It carries the scent of wool and something sharper, like ozone. You're not imagining it. Something's coming. You glance at the hut again, where Arachne's back at her loom, but slower now, like she's savoring each thread. You can't see her face, but you imagine that spark in her eyes, the one you saw earlier, burning brighter. She's not backing down, and you're caught between awe and dread, like watching someone juggle torches over a pile of dry straw. You stand, brushing dirt off your hands, and take a few steps toward the village's edge, where the path dips into a grove. The night's quiet, save for a distant owl hoot, Athena's bird. Naturally, because the universe loves a good omen. You pause, looking back at the hut's faint glow, and feel that knot in your stomach tighten. Arachne's thrown down the gauntlet, and you're stuck, wondering if Athena's already weaving her response or something far less forgiving. For now, you linger in the grove's shadows, the cool air brushing your skin, and let the weight of Arachne's words pull you deeper into her story. You're standing in that grove just outside the village, the night air cool and heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth. The owl's hoot still echoes in your mind, a reminder that Athena's probably got her eyes on this whole mess. You glance back toward Arachne's hut, its faint glow barely piercing the dark, and feel the weight of her challenge hanging like a storm cloud. You start walking back, drawn by a sudden commotion, voices, sharp and excited, spilling from the village square. Your sandals slap against the path, and as you get closer, you see a crowd forming, torches casting jittery shadows. Something big's happening, and your gut tells you it's about Arachne's reckless dare. You push through the crowd, dodging elbows and muttered apologies, until you're close enough to see the center of the chaos. Arachne's there, her loom dragged into the open, facing another loom that's, well, let's just say it looks like it was carved by angels. It's Athena's, no question, gleaming under the torchlight like it's got its own aura. The goddess herself isn't here yet, but her presence feels like a weight on your chest. The mainstream fact is that weaving contests in ancient Greece weren't just about skill. They were public spectacles, like the Olympics with thread instead of javelins. This showdown's drawing every villager with a pulse, the quirky tidbit. Some say Athena's shuttle moves on its own, guided by divine will, while Arachne's got nothing but her calloused hands. You smirk, picturing Arachne glaring at that fancy loom like it's personally insulted her. You find a spot near a cart piled with wool, the fibers tickling your arm as you lean in. Arachne's tying her warp threads, her movements sharp and deliberate, while the crowd murmurs, she's done for. A guy next to you whispers, and you roll your eyes. Sure, betting against a goddess seems like a bad call, but Arachne's got that spark, that untouchable vibe you saw back in her hut. Historians still argue whether this contest was a literal event or a myth about human ambition. But right now, the tension's so thick, you could cut it with a dull spindle. The looms are ready, and the crowd quiets as Arachne steps up, her chin high. You can't help but admire her nerve. She's facing a divine setup with nothing but her skill and a creaky loom that looks like it's seen better days. There's a joke circulating that Arachne's so stubborn, she'd weave a tapestry out of Athena's own hair and call it a warm-up. You stifle a laugh, but your hands are clammy. The air feels charged, like the moment before a lyre string snaps. You glance at Athena's loom, half expecting it to start weaving itself, but it's still waiting for its master, or maybe just taunting Arachne. You shift, the cart's wood creaking under you, and catch a whiff of the dye vats nearby. Sharp and earthy, the crowd's buzzing again, some cheering for Arachne, others praying for Athena's mercy. You remember that well you leaned against days ago, the cool water on your face, and wish you could splash away the nervous energy coiling in your gut. Arachne's hands move first, her shuttle flying, and the crowd gasps. She's not waiting for Athena. She's starting, like she's daring the goddess to catch up. You lean forward, heart racing, and notice the first threads locking into place, already forming something bold, something that's going to make jaws drop. The torches flicker, casting Arachne's shadow long and defiant across the square. You're caught in the rhythm of her work, the clack of her loom like a battle drum. The village feels alive. Every eye on those two looms, one mortal, one divine. You can't look away. Even as the night deepens, the stars above glinting like they're placing bets. Arachne's weaving her future, maybe her doom. And you're right there, swept up in the moment where a mortal dares to challenge the gods. You're still in the village square, the torchlight casting a warm glow over the crowd as Arachne's loom hums with purpose. The air's thick with anticipation, the kind that makes your skin prickle. And you're perched on that wool cart, eyes locked on Arachne's hands. Her shuttle darts like a minnow, weaving threads into a tapestry that's already taking shape bold, chaotic, almost alive. You squint, catching glimpses of figures in her work gods, mortals, tangled in scenes that feel risky. Across the square, Athena's loom stands silent, its polished frame mocking Arachne's weathered setup. The goddess still hasn't shown, but you feel her presence, like a storm just over the horizon. You shift, wool fibers sticking to your tunic, and brace for what's coming. Arachne's tapestry is no ordinary piece. You can make out gods stumbling, their divine glow dimmed by mortal tricks Zeus caught in a lover's trap. Poseidon outwitted by a fisherman. It's a jab at Olympus, woven with a smirk. The mainstream fact here is that ancient Greek art often critiqued the gods. But subtly, Arachne's work is a full-on roast, breaking every unwritten rule. The quirky tidbit: some villagers swear Arachne's using a secret thread spun from flax grown under a new moon. For extra vibrance, you grin, imagining her sneaking out at midnight like some textile ninja. Historians still argue whether her tapestry was meant to provoke Athena or just flex her skill. But right now, it's clear she's not playing safe. You glance around, the crowd's murmurs rising. A woman nearby gasps, pointing at Arachne's work, while a guy mutters, "She's begging for a lightning bolt." You chuckle, Arachne's got guts. You'll give her that. There's a joke floating around that her tapestry's so spicy it could make Hades blush. But your laugh fades as you notice the air shift, a sudden coolness brushing your skin. The torches flicker, and the crowd hushes. You look up, heart skipping, and there she is, Athena, stepping into the square, not in full goddess mode, no chariot or thunder, just a tall figure in a hooded cloak. Her eyes sharp as spear points. You swallow hard, remembering that grove owl's hoot. Its warning vibe. Athena doesn't speak, She glides to her loom, the crowd parting like water, and you feel the weight of her presence press against you. Arachne doesn't flinch. She keeps weaving, her shuttle relentless, like she's daring Athena to interrupt. You lean forward, the cart creaking, and catch a whiff of olive oil and something metallic, like armor. Athena's hands touch her loom, and the crowd holds its breath. You're torn between watching Arachne's defiant threads and Athena's calm, deliberate setup. There's another joke whispering through the crowd. Arachne's so bold. She'd weave Athena's owl into a dishcloth. You smirk, but your palms are sweaty. The looms are in sync now. Arachne's clacking fiercely. Athena's moving with eerie precision. You can't see Athena's tapestry yet, but you imagine its perfection itself godly, untouchable. You think back to that well you splashed your face at, wishing you could cool the heat rising in your chest. The square feels smaller, the stars above brighter, like they're leaning in to watch. Arachne's tapestry grows, her seams sharper, mocking the gods with every thread. You're mesmerized, but there's a knot in your gut. Athena's not here to lose, and Arachne's playing with fire. You shift, the wool cart's scent grounding you, and let the duel's rhythm pull you deeper. The torches burn low, shadows dancing across the looms. You're caught in this moment. Two weavers, one mortal, one divine, threading their fates together. The crowd's silent now. Every eye on the tapestries, every breath waiting for the next move. You lean back, the night's chill settling in, and feel the weight of Arachne's defiance. Her threads, a challenge that could unravel everything. You're still in the village square, the air taut as a stretched thread, the torchlight dimming as the night deepens. The crowd's so quiet you can hear your own heartbeat, thumping in time with the rhythmic clack of two looms. Arachne's, fierce and relentless, and Athena's, smooth as a river. You're still perched on that wool cart, its earthy scent grounding you, but your eyes are glued to Athena now. Her hands move with a precision that's almost unsettling, each thread locking into place like it was born to be there. Her tapestry's taking shape, and even half finished. Its breathtaking golden threads weaving scenes of divine order. Gods in their glory, mortals bowing in awe. You feel a pang, like you're staring at the universe's blueprint. You glance at Arachne, her face set, her shuttle flying, her tapestries nearly done. A riot of color and chaos. Gods tripping over mortal schemes. The mainstream fact here is that ancient Greek tapestries often glorified the gods, reinforcing their power. Athena's work is textbook, a divine propaganda piece. Arachne's, it's the opposite, a middle finger to Olympus. The quirky tidbit, some villagers swear Athena's threads are spun from clouds, plucked from the sky during storms, giving her work that ethereal glow. You smirk, picturing her lassoing cirrus clouds like a cosmic cowgirl. Historians still argue whether Athena's tapestry was meant to humble Arachne or just flex her godly skill. But right now, it's a masterclass in perfection. You shift, the cart creaking, and catch a villager nearby whispering, "Arachne's done for, look at that." He's pointing at Athena's work, where a woven Zeus radiates light. You roll your eyes. Sure, it's stunning, but Arachne's got heart. That raw defiance you saw back in her hut. There's a joke going around that Athena's tapestry is so perfect, it could make a cyclops cry. You chuckle softly, but your throat's tight. The crowd split, some gaze at Athena in reverence, others at Arachne with a mix of awe and fear. You feel it too. That tug between admiring Arachne's nerve and dreading what's coming. Athena's loom sings, each thread a note in a divine symphony, while Arachne's clacks like a war drum. You lean forward, catching a whiff of dye and sweat, and notice Athena's expression calm, but her eyes burn, like she's weaving Arachne's fate as much as her tapestry. You think back to that moment by the well, the cool water on your face, and wish you could splash away the tension coiling in your chest. Arachne's not slowing down. Her tapestry's complete now. Every inch a bold, rebellious story. You can't help but admire it. Even if it's like watching someone taunt a lion. The torches flicker, casting long shadows that dance across both tapestries. You're caught in the contrast. Athena's serene, godly vision versus Arachne's gritty, mortal fire. The crowd's murmurs grow, some praising Athena's skill, others gasping at Arachne's audacity. You spot that old woman from earlier, the one praying, now clutching her shawl like it's a lifeline. There's another joke, whispering through the crowd. Arachne's tapestry is so bold, it could make Poseidon trade his trident for a loom. You grin, but it's fleeting. The air's heavy, like the moment before a judge's verdict. You lean back, the wool cart's fibers tickling your arm, and let the scene sink in. The looms are slowing, the contest nearing its end. You feel the weight of this moment. Two weavers threading their truths into cloth. One divine, one defiantly human. The stars above seem to lean closer, and you wonder if even they're holding their breath. Arachne's tapestry is a dare. Athena's a warning. And you're right there, caught in the threads of a story that's about to unravel. You're still in the village square. The night air sharp with the bite of cooling torches and the faint musk of wool. The looms have gone quiet, their rhythmic clacks replaced by a tense hum of whispers as the crowd presses closer. You're perched on that same wool cart, its fibers now familiar under your fingers, but your eyes dart between Arachne's and Athena's tapestries. Both finished, hanging side by side like rival banners. Arachne's is a wildfire, of color gods mocked, mortals triumphant, every thread dripping with defiance. Athena's is a serene masterpiece, all golden hues and divine order. Gods reigning supreme, mortals tiny and obedient. You feel the weight of the moment, like the air's holding its breath, waiting for someone to speak. The crowd's buzzing, villagers craning their necks to compare. You overhear a merchant muttering that Arachne's work is too perfect. His voice shaky, like he's afraid to admit it. The mainstream fact here is that ancient Greek weaving contests were judged by skill, not just beauty tightness of weave, clarity of design, durability. Arachne's tapestry checks every box, maybe even outshines Athena's in raw craft, the quirky tidbit. Some say the crowd's so split. A few villagers think Arachne's threads are cursed, glowing faintly under moonlight. You smirk, imagining her sneaking some enchanted flax into the mix, like she's got a side hustle as a sorceress. You slide off the cart, your sandals scuffing the dirt, and edge closer to the tapestries. Arachne stands tall, chin up, her eyes daring anyone to call her out. Athena's beside her, cloak still shadowing her face. But you catch a glint of something anger respect. It's hard to tell. Historians still argue whether the crowd's judgment mattered or if Athena's verdict was always inevitable. But right now, the villagers' whispers feel like they're shaping fate. You hear a woman say, Arachne's work makes your heart race, while a man grumbles, Athena's is what gods deserve. You roll your eyes, pick a side. People. The torches cast flickering shadows across the tapestries, making Arachne's woven gods seem to smirk. There's a joke circulating that her work's so good, it could convince Dionysus to sober up. You chuckle, but your stomach's in knots. The crowd's debate grows louder, some pointing at Arachne's flawless stitches, others at Athena's divine glow. You think back to that grove where you heard the owl's hoot, its eerie warning, and wonder if this is the moment it was signaling. Athena steps forward, her presence silencing the crowd, and you feel a chill, like the night's turned against you. You lean against a nearby post, the wood rough under your palm, and watch as Athena raises a hand. The villagers freeze, eyes wide, and you can't help but admire Arachne's nerve. She's not flinching, even now. There's another joke whispered nearby Arachne so bold. She'd weave Athena's spear into a table runner. You grin, but it's fleeting, the tension suffocating. Athena's gaze sweeps the tapestries, lingering on Arachne's, and you swear you see her lips twitch, like she's caught between fury and awe. The crowd waits, some clutching amulets, others muttering prayers. You shift, catching a whiff of dye and smoke, and feel the square's energy pulse. This isn't just about weaving anymore. It's a clash of wills, mortal against divine. You glance at Arachne's tapestry again, its scenes almost moving under the torchlight, and feel a surge of respect. She's poured everything into this, knowing the cost. Athena's work is flawless, but Arachne's is alive. You're caught in the standoff, the stars above glinting like they're taking notes. And you know whatever happens next will echo beyond this dusty village. You're still in the village square. The torchlight now, a faint flicker, casting long, wavering shadows across the dirt. The crowd's hushed, their earlier murmurs swallowed by the weight of Athena's presence. You're leaning against that rough wooden post, its splinters pricking your arm, but you barely notice your eyes are fixed on Athena. Her hand still raised, her gaze burning into Arachne's tapestry. Arachne stands defiant, her jaw set, but you catch a flicker of something in her eyes. Fear. Pride. It's hard to tell. The tapestries hang behind them. Arachne's a bold snarl of mortal triumph. Athena's a serene hymn to divine power. You feel like you're balanced on a knife's edge, waiting for the goddess to speak. Athena lowers her hand, and the crowd flinches, like they're expecting a thunderclap. Instead, she steps closer to Arachne's tapestry, her cloak brushing the ground. You hold your breath, catching the faint scent of olive oil and something sharper, like ozone. The mainstream fact here is that ancient Greek gods were quick to punish hubris mortals who dared rival them, often ended up as myths with unhappy endings. Arachne's defiance fits that pattern, but her skills so undeniable, even Athena seems to pause. The quirky tidbit. Some villagers whisper, Athena's anger isn't just about pride, she's jealous. Stung that a mortal's weave might outshine her own. You smirk, imagining a goddess having a petty moment, like she's checking her divine Yelp reviews. Athena's voice cuts through the silence, low and sharp, like a blade on wet stone. You wove well. Mortal, she says. And you feel the crowd's tension spike. Arachne doesn't blink, but you're close enough to see her hands clench. Athena's words aren't praise, they're a warning. Historians still argue whether Athena's wrath was about protecting divine order or personal ego. But right now, you're watching a goddess decide a mortal's fate. You shift, the post's wood creaking, and glance at the crowd. Some are praying, others staring like they're watching a chariot crash in slow motion. Then it happens. Athena's hand slashes through the air, and Arachne's tapestry tears not physically, but you swear you hear it rip, like the fabric of reality's fraying. Arachne stumbles back, her face paling, and you feel a jolt, like the ground's shifted. The crowd gasps, and you catch a villager muttering. She's cursed now. There's a joke whispered nearby. Arachne's so stubborn, she'd weave her own curse into a scarf. You force a grin, but your heart's racing. Athena's eyes glow, not with light, but with something colder. And you remember that owl's hoot from the grove. Its eerie prophecy. You step back, your sandal catching on a stone, and steady yourself against the post. Arachne's not screaming or begging, she's glaring at Athena, like she's daring her to do worse. You can't help but respect her, even if it's like watching someone taunt a tidal wave. The air's heavy, charged with divine fury, and you think back to that well, the cool water on your face, wishing you could wash away the dread pooling in your gut. Athena raises her hand again, and you brace yourself, the crowd's prayers rising like a low hum. The torches are nearly out, their smoke curling into the starry sky. You're caught in this moment. Arachne's defiance clashing with Athena's wrath. The tapestry's silent witnesses to a mortal's gamble. The village feels small, like it's shrinking under Athena's gaze. And you wonder if Arachne's skill was worth this price. You lean forward, the post's roughness grounding you, and wait for the goddess's next move, knowing whatever comes will change everything. You're still in the village square, the last torch sputtering, its faint glow barely touching the edges of the crowd. The air's thick with smoke and something heavier, divine anger. Maybe, or just the weight of what's unfolding. You're gripping that wooden post, its splinters biting into your palm as Athena's hand hovers, her eyes locked on Arachne. The mortal weaver stands rigid, her glare fierce despite the curse you felt ripple through the air moments ago. The torn tapestry behind her sags, its vibrant threads dulled, like Athena's wrath drained its life. You swallow hard, the scent of burnt oil and dust clogging your throat, and brace for what's next. Athena speaks again, her voice like ice cracking. You dared rival me, she says, and you feel the words sink into your bones. Arachne's body jerks, not from fear, but something unnatural. Her fingers twitch, curling inward, her shoulders hunching. You blink, heart pounding, as her form starts to shift, subtle at first, like a trick of the shadows. The mainstream fact here is that transformation myths, like Arachne's, were common in ancient Greece. Often punishments for defying gods, think Medusa's snakes or Io's cow phase. The quirky tidbit, some say Arachne's curse wasn't random. Athena chose a spider because Arachne's weaving mimicked their delicate webs. You smirk, picturing Athena smirking too, like, nice threads. Now try 8 legs. You step closer. The crowd's gasps, a low hum, and see Arachne's hands, her skilled, defiant hands shrinking, sprouting fine hairs. She's shrinking too, her body collapsing inward, legs multiplying. You want to look away, but you can't. Historians still argue whether Arachne's transformation was literal or a poetic warning against pride. But right now, it's horrifyingly real. A villager nearby sobs, clutching an amulet. while another mutters, "She brought this on herself." You roll your eyes, easy to judge, when you're not the one turning into a bug. Arachne's almost gone now, her human form folding into something small, dark, scuttling. The crowd recoils, and you feel a pang, not just fear, but loss. Those hands that wove oceans and storms are now spindly legs, twitching on the dirt. There's a joke whispered, barely audible. Arachne's so stubborn. She'll weave a web to trap Athena's owl. You force a chuckle, but it's hollow. You think back to that moment by her hut, her spark of genius, and feel a knot in your chest. Athena lowers her hand, her face unreadable, and steps back, her cloak blending into the dark. You stumble back to the post, your legs shaky, and catch a whiff of the dye vats, their sharp tang grounding you. The crowds dispersing, some praying, others fleeing, like they're afraid the curse is contagious. Arachne, or what's left of her, scuttles toward her loom, now towering over her tiny form. You squint, half expecting her to climb it, but she pauses, her new eyes glinting in the dying torchlight. There's another joke circling Athena's curse is so extra. She turned Arachne into her own intern. You grin, but it fades fast. The square feels empty. The tapestry's forgotten. You sink to the ground, the dirt cool under you, and stare at the spot where Arachne stood. The stars above are sharp, like they're mocking the village's chaos. You remember that well. It's cool water, and wish you could splash away the image of Arachne's transformation. Athena's gone, her loom vanishing with her, leaving only Arachne's creaky frame and a new, small creature weaving its first shaky threads. You're caught in this moment, a mortal's fall, a goddess's verdict, and the strange, sad birth of something new. You're still in the village square. The night now, deep and quiet. The last torch reduced to embers. The crowd's gone, scattered like leaves after a gust, leaving you alone with the faint rustle of wind and the memory of Arachne's transformation. You're sitting in the dirt, back against that wooden post, its roughness a small comfort as you stare at the spot where Arachne, now a tiny, scuttling spider, disappeared into the shadows of her loom. The air smells of cooled ash and something sweet, like dew settling on grass, but your mind's stuck on those twitching legs. Once hands that wove storms, you shake your head, trying to clear the image, and notice a faint shimmer in the dark, a delicate thread, catching the starlight. You crawl closer, careful not to snap it, and see it's Arachne's work, her first web, spun between the loom's frame and a nearby stone. It's fragile, uneven, but unmistakably a spider's craft. Each strand precise despite her new form. The mainstream fact here is that spiderwebs, even in ancient times, were marvels of engineering. Used by Greeks to study geometry and strength. Some even called them nature's looms. The quirky tidbit villagers later claimed Arachne's first web glowed faintly, like it carried a spark of her mortal soul. You smirk, imagining her tiny spider self weaving with the same defiance you saw in her hut. You sit back, the dirt cool under your palms, and watch the web tremble in the breeze. It's hypnotic, the way it holds, delicate yet tough, like Arachne herself. Historians still argue whether her transformation was Athena's cruelty or a strange gift, letting her weave forever. Right now, you're not sure what to think. You're just mesmerized by this small, stubborn act of creation. A villager passes by, an old man with a lantern, and mutters, "She's still at it." Even now, you nod, feeling a mix of awe and sadness, like you're mourning the woman but cheering the spider. The web grows, Arachne's tiny form darting across it, her movements surer now. You lean closer, catching a whiff of earth and wool, and think back to that storyteller in the square, his tales of her tapestries shaming gods. This web's no tapestry, but it's hers. A new kind of art. There's a joke whispered in your memory, Arachne so crafty. She'll weave a web to snag Athena's ego. You chuckle softly, but it's bittersweet. The village feels empty without her human spark. Yet this web's proof she's not gone. Not really. You stand, brushing dirt off your tunic, and take a last look at the web. Now, spanning the loom's edge like a silver net, the stars above seem to approve, their light dancing on the strands. You remember that well. It's cool water on your face, and wish you could rinse away the ache in your chest. The square's silent, save for a distant dog's bark and the faint hum of Arachne's work. You're caught in this moment, a mortal's fall, reborn as a spider's rise. And you wonder if Athena's watching, somewhere, her owl perched nearby. You step back, the night's chill wrapping around you, and feel the weight of Arachne's story settle. Her web's small, but it's a start, a thread tying her past to something eternal. You linger, the post's shadow stretching behind you, and let the quiet beauty of her first web pull you deeper into her world, where defiance spins into something new. You're lingering in the village square, the night air crisp, carrying the faint scent of dew and pine from the nearby grove. The embers of the last torch are gone, leaving only starlight to illuminate Arachne's delicate web. Now, stretching wider across her old loom's frame. You're standing a few steps from that wooden post, its familiar roughness out of reach, but you're too caught up to care. The web glints like silver thread, each strand a testament to Arachne's stubborn spirit, her tiny spider form darting with purpose. You crouch low, the dirt cool against your knees, and watch her work, mesmerized by how she's turned Athena's curse into something beautiful. The village is silent, save for the soft rustle of leaves and the occasional cricket. But the web feels alive, vibrating with possibility. You notice something new. Tiny specks caught in the web. Insects drawn to its sticky strands, their wings glinting faintly. A single dewdrop clings to a thread, refracting starlight like a jewel. The mainstream fact here is that spider webs were vital to ancient ecosystems, trapping pests and inspiring early human nets for fishing and hunting. Arachne's web, though, feels like more than a trap. It's a quiet rebellion, a new chapter spun from ruin. The quirky tidbit: some villagers later swore her webs attracted fireflies, their glow making her work look like a starry sky. You grin, picturing Arachne orchestrating a tiny light show, like she's still flexing her artistry. You settle onto the ground, the earth's chill seeping through your tunic, and feel a strange calm. The web's growing, its pattern tighter, more intricate, like Arachne's learning her new craft with every pass. Historians still argue whether her transformation was pure punishment or a twisted kind of immortality. But right now, you're leaning toward the latter. This web's no tapestry, but it's hers, and it's changing the world in its own small way. You spot a moth flutter too close, snagged instantly, and wince Arachne's not messing around. A villager's voice echoes in your memory. That old man with the lantern. She's still at it. Yeah, she is. The breeze stirs, carrying the faint tang of dye vats from the village's edge. And you think back to that moment by her hut, her hands blurring over the loom. This web's different, but it's got the same fire, the same refusal to quit. There's a joke you overheard in the crowd. Arachne's so fierce, she'll weave a web to catch Athena's temper. You chuckle. The sound's soft in the quiet night, but it's tinged with awe. You're starting to see her not as a victim, but as a force, spinning her fate into something eternal. The web trembles, another dewdrop forming, and you're struck by how fragile yet strong it is, like hope stitched into silk. You shift, stretching your legs, and glance at the stars, their light weaving through the web's strands. The village feels distant, like it's fading into Arachne's new world. You remember that well. It's cool water splashing your face, and wish you could bottle this moment. The quiet, the web, the sense that something broken is being remade. There's another joke floating in your mind. Arachne's webs are so good, they'll make Zeus rethink his lightning aesthetic. You smirk, but your heart's full, caught in the rhythm of her tiny, relentless work. You stand, brushing dirt from your hands, and take a final look at the web. Now, a delicate net sparkling under the sky. Arachne's still moving, her spider form a shadow against the loom's frame. You're rooted here, in this square, where a mortal challenged a goddess and became something else. The night's deep, the stars watchful, and you let the web's quiet beauty pull you further into Arachne's story, where defiance spins into creation. You're standing at the edge of the village square, the dawn just beginning to paint the sky with streaks of pink and gold. The air's cool, laced with the scent of dew-soaked grass and the faint musk of wool from nearby huts. Arachne's web, now a delicate lattice across her old loom, catches the early light, its strands shimmering like they're woven from liquid silver. You're a few steps from where you watched her last night. The wooden post, a distant shadow, but your eyes are fixed on the web, stronger and wider now. Arachne's tiny spider form moves with quiet purpose, each thread a defiance of her curse. You take a deep breath, feeling the morning's chill, and realize the village's stirring news of Arachne's transformation is spreading like wildfire. You wander closer, your sandals soft on the damp earth, and overhear a group of travelers by a cart. Their voices low but urgent. They're talking about Arachne, her story already twisting into legend, how she challenged Athena, wove a tapestry to shame the gods, and became a spider. One traveler, a wiry man with a lyre slung over his shoulder, claims her webs are omens, signs of mortal courage. The mainstream fact here is that ancient Greek myths spread fast, carried by traders and bards along trade routes, turning local stories into cultural touchstones. The quirky tidbit, some say Arachne's tale reached Crete within days, where weavers started copying her bold patterns, calling them spider stitches. You smirk, imagining Arachne's ghost chuckling at her fan club. You pause by a low wall, its stones warmed by the rising sun, and watch the travelers pack their cart. The village feels alive again. But different Arachne's not just a weaver anymore. She's a story, a weaning, a spark. Historians still argue whether her myth was meant to curb pride or celebrate human skill. But right now, you're caught up in how her name's traveling, carried on tongues and sandal soles. A woman nearby, spinning wool, glances at the web and crosses herself well. The ancient Greek version, a quick prayer to Athena. You roll your eyes. People are quick to judge, but they're still weaving. Maybe a little inspired by Arachne's nerve. The web glints, a new dewdrop trembling on its edge, and you think back to that night in the square. The crowd's gasps as Arachne changed. Her story's out there now. Growing legs 8, to be exact. There's a joke you overhear from the travelers. Arachne's tale's so wild, it'll make bards trade their lyres for looms. You chuckle, leaning against the wall, its roughness grounding you. The travelers move on, their cart creaking, But you linger, watching Arachne's web catch the dawn's light. It's not just a web anymore, it's a bridge, linking her village to distant lands, her defiance to new ears. You shift, catching a whiff of fresh bread from a nearby hut, and feel the day's warmth creeping in. The village hums goats bleating, a child laughing, but Arachne's web holds your focus. Its delicate strength, quiet rebellion. You remember that well. Its cool water on your face, and wish you could splash away the bittersweet ache in your chest. There's another joke floating in the air. From a passing shepherd, Arachne's webs are so famous, they'll be sung about before Apollo's hymns. You grin, but it's soft, tempered by the weight of her story spreading. A mortal's challenge, a myth for the ages. You step back, the sun climbing higher, and take a last look at the web, its strands glowing like they're alive. Arachne's still there, a shadow weaving her new art. You're caught in this moment, where a spider's work becomes a legend's thread, tying past to future. The village fades behind you, but her story's just beginning, carried on the wind to places you'll never see. You're walking along the village's dusty outskirts, the morning sun now high, warming your shoulders as it burns off the last of the dawn's dew. The air carries the tang of olive groves and the faint clatter of looms from nearby huts. A reminder of Arachne's craft even out here. You're heading toward a stream you heard about, its gentle gurgle calling you, but your mind's on her story. Now rippling beyond this village, like a stone skipped across a lake, that web you saw at dawn, glinting on her old loom, feels like a tether, tying you to her even as you wander. You pause, kicking a pebble, and notice a spider's web strung between two reeds, its strands catching the light Arachne's influence, or just coincidence. You're not sure, but it makes you smile. You reach the stream, its water clear and cool, and kneel to splash your face, the chill snapping you awake. The mainstream fact here is that spiders, inspired by myths like Arachne's, shaped ancient survival webs, taught humans to craft traps, from fishing nets to snares for game, revolutionizing how people lived. The quirky tidbit: some Greek hunters swore spiderwebs were lucky, tying tiny ones to their bows for better aim. You chuckle, picturing a burly hunter fussing over a web like it's a charm bracelet. Historians still argue whether Arachne's myth directly influenced these practices or just reflected them. But right now, you're seeing her legacy in every glinting strand by the stream. You sit on a smooth rock. The waters babble soothing, and watch another spider spin nearby, its web a perfect spiral. It's not Arachne, but you can't help feeling her in it, her defiance, her skill. now woven into nature itself. You think back to those travelers from earlier, their cart creaking as they carried her tale away. Her story's not just talk now, it's changing things, inspiring weavers, hunters, maybe even poets. A kid runs by, chasing a goat, and shouts about Spider Lady to his friend. You grin. Arachne's a legend already, and it's barely noon. The stream reflects the sky, blue and endless, and you lean back, the rock's warmth seeping into your palms. There's a joke you overheard in the village. Arachne's webs are so clever, they could trap Hermes mid-sprint. You laugh softly, but it's tinged with wonder. Her webs aren't just traps, they're shelters, art, tools, a whole new way of existing. You spot a fish dart under the stream's surface, safe from any net, and think of that well back in the village. Its cool water, a fleeting comfort compared to this moment. Arachne's curse feels less like punishment now, more like a strange gift, letting her shape the world in ways her tapestries never could. You stand, brushing grit from your tunic, and notice more webs along the stream's edge, each one unique, some tight, some sprawling. It's like Arachne's teaching every spider her tricks, her legacy spinning outward. There's another joke in your mind. From that shepherd by the square, Arachne's so crafty, she'll weave a web to shade Apollo's chariot. You smirk. The sun hot on your neck, and feel her story settling into you, not just as myth, but as something tangible, alive in the webs around you. The village hums in the distance, looms clacking, voices rising, but out here, it's just you, the stream, and Arachne's quiet revolution. You linger, the waters ripple hypnotic, and let the sight of those webs pull you deeper. They're small, but they're everywhere, catching light, bugs, maybe even dreams. Arachne's not just a name now, she's a force. Her threads stitching the world together, one web at a time. You're caught in this moment, where a mortal's defiance becomes nature's blueprint, and the stream's soft song carries you further into her world. You're still by the stream, the midday sun high, its heat softened by the shade of a gnarled olive tree. The water's gentle gurgle mixes with the hum of cicadas, and you're sprawled on that smooth rock, one hand trailing in the cool current. The spider webs you spotted earlier glint along the stream's edge, their strands swaying like tiny banners of Arachne's legacy. You're thinking about her story, how it spread from that village square to travelers' tongues. And now, it's sinking into you, deep as the roots under your feet. You pick up a pebble, smooth and warm, and roll it in your palm, feeling the world. Arachne's webs are weaving, one delicate thread at a time. You glance at a nearby hut, where a woman's hanging a tapestry to dry, its colors bold blues and reds that echo Arachne's defiant work. The mainstream fact here is that ancient Greek weavers, inspired by myths like Arachne's, pushed textile arts forward, creating intricate patterns that rivaled paintings and influenced trade across the Mediterranean. The quirky tidbit: some weavers in nearby towns started calling their best threads Arachne's tears, believing her cursed spirit blessed their looms. You smirk, imagining Arachne rolling her tiny spider eyes at the melodrama. But it's clear, her name's sparking something bigger than herself. You lean back, the tree's bark rough against your shoulders, and watch a spider, maybe Arachne's kin, repair a torn web, its legs precise as a surgeon's. It's mesmerizing how her curse has turned into craft, not just for her, but for every weaver, mortal or eight-legged. Historians still argue whether Arachne's myth was a cautionary tale or a celebration of human ingenuity. But right now, you're betting on the latter. You spot a girl nearby, sketching a web's pattern on a clay tablet, her tongue poking out in focus. You grin. Arachne's teaching kids now, without even trying. The stream's ripple catches your eye, and you think back to that dawn in the square, her first web glowing under starlight. Her story's not just traveling, it's inspiring, pushing people to weave, to create, to dare. There's a joke you heard from a passing merchant Arachne so legendary, her webs could convince Athena to take up knitting. You chuckle, the pebble warm in your hand, but it's a soft laugh, laced with awe. Her webs are more than art. They're a blueprint for survival, beauty, maybe even rebellion. You toss the pebble into the stream, watching it sink, and feel a pang for that well in the village, its cool splash a distant memory. You stand, stretching, and notice more webs, tucked in reeds, strung across branches, each one a nod to Arachne's skill. The woman with the tapestry glances over, catching you staring, and gives a shy nod, like she knows you're in on the secret. There's another joke in your mind. From that kid by the goat, Arachne's webs are so fine, they'll catch Poseidon's ego in a net. You smirk, the sun hot on your face, and feel her influence everywhere in the weaver's dye-stained hands. The girl's clay sketch, the spider's silent work. The village hums beyond the stream, looms clacking. But out here, it's Arachne's world. Her threads stitching past to present. You linger. The olive trees shade a quiet refuge, and let the web's delicate strength pull you deeper. They're small, but they're changing things, inspiring hands and hearts across this land. You're caught in this moment, where a mortal's defiance becomes a legacy, woven into the fabric of life itself, and the stream's soft song carries you further into her story. You're wandering back toward the village, the sun now dipping toward late afternoon, casting long shadows across the dusty path. The air's warm, scented with thyme and the faint tang of wood smoke from nearby huts. Your sandals scuff the dirt, kicking up little clouds. But your mind's on Arachne, her webs, Her story, how it's weaving itself into something bigger than that square where she faced Athena. You pass a group of women washing clothes by a spring, their laughter mingling with the splash of water, and overhear one mention Arachne's name, her voice low, like she's sharing a secret. You pause, leaning against a low stone wall, its warmth seeping into your palms, and listen as they debate her fate. Their words a mix of fear and fascination. They're not just talking about her transformation. They're arguing about what it means. One woman, her hands red from scrubbing, insists Arachne's curse was unfair, a goddess's tantrum. Another, older, shakes her head, saying, "It's a lesson mortals don't challenge gods," and walk away. The mainstream fact here is that ancient Greek gods were often portrayed as flawed, their disputes with mortals reflecting human struggles, jealousy, pride, vengeance. Athena's reaction to Arachne fits that mold, a divine ego bruised by a mortal skill. The quirky tidbit: some myths claim Zeus himself weighed in, arguing Athena went too far, while Hera backed the punishment, loving the drama. You smirk, picturing Olympus as a divine group chat, debating Arachne's fate over ambrosia. You shift, the wall's stones rough under your fingers, and glance at the spring, where a spider's web spans 2 reeds, glinting in the sunlight. It's like Arachne's everywhere, her influence threading through conversations and nature alike. Historians still argue whether the gods' debates in myths were symbolic or literal, but right now, you're caught up in how this village is wrestling with her story, turning it over like a coin. The women's voices rise, one joking that Arachne's so bold, her webs could trap Athena's spear mid-throw. You chuckle, but it's soft, tempered by the weight of their words. Arachne's not just a tale, she's a mirror, showing what happens when you push too far. You move on, the path curving toward the village center, and pass a potter shaping clay, his wheel spinning. He's etching a web-like pattern into a vase, and you wonder if it's a nod to Arachne, her story already seeping into art. You think back to that stream, the webs along its banks, and feel a thread of continuity, like her works tying everything together. There's another joke you recall from a traveler Arachne's so crafty. She'll weave a web to shade Hades' underworld. You grin, the sun hot on your neck. But it's a quiet grin, laced with awe at how her name's sparking ideas. From weavers to potters to gossips by the spring. You reach the square, now quiet. The looms from that fateful night gone, but Arachne's web still clings to her old frame, stronger now, dotted with dewdrops. You pause, catching a whiff of dye and wool, and feel her presence, not as a woman, but as something eternal. You remember that well. It's cool water splashing your face, and wish you could rinse away the bittersweet pang in your chest. The village hums, looms clacking. A child singing, but Arachne's story is louder. a thread weaving through every voice, every craft. You're caught in this moment, where a mortal's defiance stirs divine debates and mortal hearts, pulling you deeper into her world. You're back in the village square, the late afternoon sun casting a golden haze over the dusty ground. The air hums with the clack of looms from nearby huts and the faint scent of baked clay from a potter's kiln. Arachne's web, still strung across her old loom's frame, glints like a fragile crown, its strands thicker now, dotted with trapped gnats and shimmering dew. You're standing near where the crowd once stood, that wild night when Athena's wrath changed everything. But now it's just you, the web, and the village's quiet rhythm. You run a hand along a nearby stone, its warmth familiar, and notice a group of artisans nearby, their hands busy with clay and dye, their chatter circling back to Arachne. Her name's a spark that won't die. You wander closer, catching their words. They're talking about a new trend, weavers and potters etching spiderweb patterns into their work. Delicate lines that mimic Arachne's craft. One artisan, a woman with dye-stained fingers, holds up a cloth with a web-like border, proud but nervous, like she's half expecting Athena to pop up. The mainstream fact here is that ancient Greek art often borrowed from nature, think olive branches, waves, or webs, blending myth and reality into everyday objects like vases or textiles. The quirky tidbit: some artisans claimed Arachne's spirit guided their hands, especially when they worked at night under moonlight. You smirk, picturing her tiny spider self perched on a loom, giving artistic direction like a bossy muse. You settle on a low bench, the wood creaking under you, and watch a potter etch a web onto a jug, his stylus steady. It's not just craft, it's homage. Arachne's story, seeping into clay and thread across the village. Historians still argue whether her myth directly shaped Greek art or simply reflected its obsession with nature. But right now, you're seeing her influence everywhere, from the potter's jug to the weaver's cloth. A kid runs by, waving a stick with a web clinging to it, and you chuckle. Arachne's got fans in every age group. There's a joke you overhear: her webs are so iconic, they'll be carved into Zeus's throne next. You grin, but it's soft, laced with awe at how her curse is turning into culture. You glance at the web on the loom, its strands catching the sun's slant, and think back to that stream, the webs along its reeds, each one a nod to her skill. Her story's not just inspiring talk, it's shaping hands, tools, lives. You catch a whiff of drying clay and wool, grounding you, and feel a pang for that well in the village. Its cool splash, a distant comfort. The artisan's chatter rises, one joking that Arachne's so legendary, her webs could decorate Athena's shield. You laugh quietly, but your heart's full. Her defiance is no longer just a tale. It's a pattern, woven into the village's pulse. You stand, stretching, and notice more web-like designs, a bracelet on a woman's wrist, a carving on a cart. It's like Arachne's rewriting the world, one delicate line at a time. The square feels alive, not with the chaos of that contest night, but with quiet creation, her legacy threading through every craft. You linger, the bench's warmth lingering on your skin, and let the sight of her web pull you deeper. It's small, but it's mighty, a mortal's mark on a world that tried to silence her. You're caught in this moment, where Arachne's threads weave art and memory, tying her defiance to eternity. You're strolling through the village's narrow lanes, the evening sun dipping low, painting the clay walls in shades of amber and rose. The air's warm, laced with the scent of fresh bread and the sharp tang of dye vats bubbling nearby. You're weaving between huts, your sandals scuffing the dirt, and Arachne's story feels like it's trailing you. Her name whispered in every corner. You pass a weaver's stall, where a woman's selling cloths with delicate, web-like patterns, her fingers tracing the threads as she haggles with a buyer. You pause, leaning against a sun-warmed wall, its roughness familiar, and realize Arachne's not just a myth here. She's a word, a symbol, etched into the village's pulse. You overhear the buyer, a trader with a heavy accent, asking about the spider patterns, saying they're fetching high prices in distant markets. The mainstream fact here is that ancient Greek textiles were a major trade good, with intricate designs like webs boosting their value across places like Athens or Crete. The quirky tidbit traders started calling these patterns Arachne's mark, believing they brought luck to merchants' journeys. You smirk, imagining Arachne's tiny spider self nodding approvingly, like she's got a cut of the profits. Historians still argue whether her myth directly drove this trend or just rode the wave of nature-inspired art. But right now, you're watching her name turn into currency. One thread at a time, you wander on, the lanes bustling with evening life kids chasing a stray dog, an old man strumming a lyre. At a potter's stall, you spot a cup with a web motif, its lines so fine they seem to shimmer. The potter catches you staring and grins, saying, "Arachne's touch, eh?" You nod, feeling her presence in the clay, the cloth, the chatter. There's a joke you overhear from a passing weaver. Arachne's so famous, her webs could buy Poseidon's trident at auction. You chuckle, the wall's warmth seeping into your shoulder. But it's a soft laugh, tinged with wonder at how her story's reshaping the world. You think back to that square, her first web glinting under starlight, and feel a thread of continuity. Her defiance is now a legacy, not just in webs, but in words. You catch a whiff of wool and smoke, grounding you, and remember that well. It's cool water, a faint echo of this moment's warmth. A girl nearby sketches a web on a scrap of cloth, her eyes bright, and you realize Arachne's inspiring. More than trade, she's sparking dreams. There's another joke floating by, from a kid tossing pebbles. Arachne's webs are so slick, they could charm Apollo's lyre into silence. You grin, but your heart's full, caught in how her name's weaving through the language. Art, life. You round a corner, the village glowing in the sunset, and spot a spider's web strung between two olive branches, its strands catching the last light. It's not Arachne's, but it might as well be her influences everywhere, from market stalls to children's games. The lanes hum with voices, looms, laughter, but her story's the loudest. A thread tying this place to places you'll never see. You linger, the wall's heat fading as the evening cools, and let the web's quiet beauty pull you deeper. Arachne's not just a weaver or a spider. She's a name, a force, spinning her defiance into the fabric of the world. You're meandering along the village's edge, where the last huts give way to open fields, the twilight sky deepening to a soft indigo. The air's cooler now, scented with wild mint and the faint smoke of evening fires. Your sandals crunch on the gravel path, and Arachne's story feels woven into the world around you, her legacy glinting in every spider's web you pass. You spot one stretched across a low shrub, its strands beaded with dew, catching the first stars like tiny mirrors. You pause, hands in your pockets, and feel her presence not just in the webs, but in the way the village has embraced her, turning her name into a synonym for skill, defiance, maybe even magic. The fields hum with crickets, and you're struck by how far her story's traveled. From that square to these quiet edges, you wander toward a small shrine, its stones worn smooth, dedicated to Athena, ironic, given the drama. A weaver's left an offering, a scrap of cloth with a web-like pattern, and you can't help but smile. The mainstream fact here is that spiders diversified rapidly in ancient ecosystems, their webs adapting to trap everything from flies to small frogs, shaping food chains across Greece and beyond. The quirky tidbit: some villagers believed Arachne's curse spread to all spiders, giving their webs a spark of her genius. Like each one's a tiny tribute to her loom. You smirk, imagining her as the patron saint of eight-legged architects, approving their designs from some cosmic spinning wheel. You settle on a flat stone near the shrine, its coolness seeping through your tunic, and watch a spider nearby. Its web, a chaotic spiral, tailored to the shrub's jagged branches. It's not just surviving, it's thriving, like Arachne did, turning a curse into creation, Historians still argue whether her myth was meant to warn or inspire. But right now, you're seeing her in every web's unique pattern, each one a rebellion against chaos. A shepherd passes, his flock bleating, and nods at the shrine, muttering about Arachne's spider tricks. You grin her story's not just art or trade, it's nature, woven into the world's fabric. You lean back, the stones chill grounding you, and think back to that stream, its webs glinting like her first. Her legacy's not just in human hands, but in these silent spinners, adapting, building, enduring. There's a joke you recall from the market. Arachne's webs are so slick, they could snag Hermes' winged sandals mid-flight. You chuckle. The sound's soft in the twilight, but it's laced with awe. Her stories reshaped how people see spiders, turning them from pests to artists. Their webs from traps to treasures. You catch a whiff of mint and earth, and remember that well. Its cool splash, a faint echo of this moment's calm. You stand, brushing dust from your hands, and notice more webs across fences, in tree hollows, each one distinct, like signatures. The village glows faintly behind you, its looms quiet now, but Arachne's influence hums on in every thread, every spinner. There's another joke in your mind. From that potter's stall, Arachne's so clever. Her webs could teach Athena to chill. You smirk, the stars brightening above, and feel her story settling into you. A thread tying mortal daring to nature's quiet genius. You linger, the shrine's shadow stretching, and let the web's delicate strength pull you deeper into her world, where defiance spins into eternity. You're standing at the village's farthest edge, where the fields meet a scattering of wild oaks, their branches heavy with twilight's deepening blue. The air's crisp, carrying the scent of dry grass and a faint whiff of smoke from distant hearths. Your sandals sink into the soft earth, and you're gazing at a spider's web strung between two gnarled roots, its strands glinting under the rising moon. Arachne's story feels like it's woven into the night itself. Her legacy, not just in the village's looms or traders' tales, but in these quiet, endless webs, spinning defiance into something eternal. You breathe deep, the cool air steadying you, and feel her presence less a woman, less a spider, more a whisper in the world's fabric, tying everything together. You wander closer to the oaks, the web's delicate arcs catching starlight, and think of how far her stories come from that fateful square to this silent field. The mainstream fact here is that ancient Greeks saw weaving as a metaphor for fate, with myths like Arachne's linking human craft to divine plans. Her webs, now countless, feel like a challenge to that order. A mortal's thread spun free, the quirky tidbit. Some poets claimed Arachne's webs sang faintly in the wind, a melody only the bold could hear. You smirk, straining to listen, half expecting a tune, but it's just the rustle of leaves, soft and steady. Historians still argue whether her myth was a tragedy or a triumph, but right now, you're leaning toward triumph. Her webs are everywhere. Outlasting Athena's wrath, you settle on a mossy rock, its chill seeping through your tunic, and watch the web tremble as a moth brushes it, caught in an instant. Arachne's work endures, not in tapestries, but in these small, fierce acts of creation. You think back to that first web in the square, glinting under dawn, and feel a thread of awe. Her story's not done. It's alive, spinning through every spider, every weaver, every dreamer. There's a joke you recall from the village Arachnes, so eternal. Her webs could outlast Zeus's lightning. You chuckle, the sound swallowed by the night, and feel her legacy settle, not as a curse, but as a gift, weaving the world anew. You lean back, the stars sharp above, and let the quiet sink in. The village is a faint glow behind you, its looms silent, but Arachne's story hums on, in webs, in whispers, in the earth's pulse. You remember that well. It's cool water, and wish you could carry this moment's peace forever. There's one last joke in your mind. From a child's laugh, Arachne's webs are so strong. They'll hold the moon someday. You smile. The rock's moss soft under your fingers, and feel her defiance threading through the time. A mortal's spark that never fades. The night wraps around you now, soft and slow, like a blanket woven from starlight and shadow. Your breath slows, matching the gentle sway of the web. Its strands, a quiet promise that creation endures. The oaks stand guard, their leaves whispering secrets only the night knows, and you feel safe, held in this moment where Arachne's story fades into dreams. Let the webs spin on, delicate and fierce, carrying her name through ages yet to come. Close your eyes, let the world soften and drift into sleep, wrapped in the threads of her endless art.